Stop scrolling. 90% of rich people don't boast about money. They work in silence. In this video, I'll tell you why. Watch to the end. Let's go.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not looking at your typical financial guide on, stock picking or how to maximize a 401k. Instead, we're stepping into the shadows. We are looking at a high-stakes, highly covert defense mechanism used by the ultra-wealthy. It's called stealth wealth. And as we're about to see, intentionally hiding your success isn't just about modesty. It's actually a critical strategy for survival in the modern era. I want you to think about this question for just a second. What is the absolute most dangerous thing a wealthy person can buy? Is it a high-performance sports car, a private jet, maybe a mega mansion hanging off a cliffside? Well, the truth is actually far more abstract and, honestly, far more pervasive. The most dangerous thing a wealthy person can buy is visibility. To really understand why visibility is so perilous, we have to look at the harsh physical realities of projecting wealth. Take this crazy story from wealth advisor Mark Campazano. When he was a kid, he was just sitting there watching a Jackie Gleason variety show on TV when suddenly a massive explosion shook his entire house. A bomb had literally been detonated under the family car parked right outside. It turned out the attack was tied to a labor dispute at his family's business. That visibility brought literal physical threats of extortion and violence right to their front door. Standing out has historically carried some severe physical risks. But today, the threat isn't just physical, right? It's digital, and it operates at a massive scale. In 2024 alone, the criminal underground stole an estimated $16.6 billion, according to the FBI. And here is how they operate. Cybercriminals aren't generally targeting people just for being rich. They target visibility triggers. If you have a public liquidity event, say you sell a company, or you get a highly publicized promotion, your name, your location, and your sudden influx of wealth are instantly connected in searchable databases. You move from being part of a mass-scale opportunistic scan straight into the crosshairs of highly targeted operations. So, the crucial point we need to establish here is this. Visibility is a liability. True security in the modern age requires becoming what security experts call a hard target. This means ruthlessly managing both your digital and physical footprint. Now, the goal isn't necessarily to completely disappear from the internet entirely, but to intentionally sever the obvious connective tissue between your identity, your assets, and your family. Because if you look like a soft target, you invite attack. Mask your footprint and threat actors will just move on to easier prey. Beyond the immediate, obvious threat of cybercriminals, there's a profound sociological threat to visibility too. It's rooted in this concept called mimetic rivalry. Now, without getting too academic here, just think of it this way. Human desire is contagious. We don't desire a luxury watch or a massive estate because we intrinsically need it. We desire it because we see our peers desiring it. When you display wealth, you aren't just showing off. You actively infect your neighbors with a zero-sum anxiety. You inadvertently become the model for what they should want, and that turns them into bitter rivals locked in a relentless competition for status. To see the destructive power of this theater of envy, we can look at a chilling real-world example from the Columbia University Library. An observer noted that students literally couldn't leave their books unattended for even a minute because competing students would steal them. And they weren't stealing them to sell them for financial gain, they were driven by surges of intense envy. Students sabotaged peers and handed out false study guides just to gain a relative advantage. This is exactly what visibility and status competition do. They completely destroy trust, relationships, and communities. So this theater of envy forces a really stark choice upon anyone with means on how they're going to live with their wealth. On one side, we have conspicuous consumption, buying things to signal status. And that leads to intense inequality anxiety, a constant need for external validation, and ultimately making yourself a target. On the flip side, we have quiet affluence, or stealth wealth. This prioritizes internal autonomy, social harmony, and directing your capital toward freedom rather than flashy depreciating assets. Now, what's really interesting is when you look at the hard empirical data on how actual millionaires behave. Based on decades of research into what are called prodigious accumulators of wealth, there's a massive disconnect between public perception and reality. While the public thinks millionaires are all walking around wearing $5,000 Rolexes, the median price a true accumulator actually pays is $235. The public assumes an $80,000 luxury car lease. The reality is a $29,000 reliable vehicle, often bought used with cash. These individuals are intentionally avoiding the luxury trap. And there is a very pragmatic, highly cynical economic reason for dressing and driving like the middle class, avoiding the asshole tax. This is a very real known phenomenon where counterparties, we're talking home contractors, service providers, real estate agents, anchor their pricing to the buyer's perceived net worth. If a contractor pulls up to a mansion and sees two brand new luxury SUVs sitting in the driveway, they will routinely slap a 30 to 40% predatory markup on their quote. Stealth wealth operates as a strategic cloak. It preserves your negotiation leverage by completely hiding your ability to pay. And this brilliantly illustrates how the highest levels of corporate finance handle visibility. When a business owner goes to sell their company, M&A advisors, like Jakeem Woods & Company, treat confidentiality as a core value protection strategy. They literally weaponize information asymmetry. They start with anonymous blind teasers so competitors can't poach clients or panic employees. They rigorously screen buyers before signing NDAs, and they only release sensitive data in stages through closely tracked virtual data rooms. The blueprint here for your personal security is crystal clear. Never give up sensitive financial information until the other party has absolutely earned it. Let's shift our focus to threats that lurk much closer to home. High net worth families often employ domestic staff, nannies, estate managers, drivers. And over time, something really dangerous happens called convenience creep. Because the family naturally trusts the staff, they slowly grant them more and more access to personal schedules, financial information, and security systems simply out of convenience. This unchecked accumulation of access creates a massive, invisible vulnerability right inside the house. And it's exactly why the ultra-wealthy generally don't manage their own staff. Visibility also creates some pretty toxic dynamics within the family itself, specifically through something called economic outpatient care, or EOC. These are these substantial financial gifts, bailouts, and lifestyle subsidies given to adult children. Now, while this is almost always done out of love, the data shows a direct negative correlation between the amount of EOC received and the child's ability to build their own wealth. These gifts basically become golden handcuffs. They strip the child of their independence, their initiative, and their drive, replacing it with a perpetual submission to the family's wealth. So how do you neutralize these toxic dynamics? How do you stop friends or family from constantly asking for money without completely ruining the relationship? Well, you deploy a tactical defense mechanism, a friends and family fund. Here's how it builds. You set a specific funding amount, and crucially, you appoint a third-party manager, like your financial advisor. You establish strict, objective criteria for what gets funded. Then, when a relative asks for cash, you simply direct them to the manager. You remove yourself from the emotional transaction entirely. To pull all of this together, ultra-wealthy individuals rely on family offices to act essentially as private intelligence agencies for their household. They build an impenetrable wall of silence. They run corporate-level background checks on all domestic staff to manage risks. They strictly separate personal relationships from HR duties to avoid any kind of emotional manipulation. They purposefully add transfer friction to high-value accounts, meaning money can't be moved with just a simple login. It requires deliberate secondary approvals. And yes, they carry specialty coverages like kidnap and ransom insurance, not out of paranoia, but as a calculated, covert safeguard against the realities of a highly visible world. Ultimately, the choice to embrace stealth wealth really comes down to understanding the difference between two types of power. Signaling power is the ability to buy a flashy car or a massive house to impress strangers, but it chains you to a high-stress, high-consumption lifestyle just to maintain that illusion. Walkaway power is entirely different. It is the quiet, invisible leverage of knowing you can leave a bad deal, quit a toxic job, or move out of an undesirable situation at any moment, without hesitation. Walkaway power is true autonomy. Which leaves us with this final, profound thought to consider from our sources. True wealth is not about being seen. It's about the freedom to never be noticed. So ask yourself, is the money you're spending right now buying you freedom, or is it just buying you an audience you now have to perform for? By opting out of the status game and keeping your affluence quiet, you protect your capital, you protect your family, and most importantly, you protect your peace of mind. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep your footprint small and your autonomy large.
If this video helped you, hit the subscribe button, it is free. And it helps me make more videos like this. Now tell me in the comment, what's your plan to make money? And what topic should I explain next? I read every comment. See you in the next video.